Our guest tonight is Ring of Honor World Champion Christopher Daniels. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Let me just correct you real quick. It's World Champion of the World. So, but that's a mistake a lot of people make the first time out. But now that I've corrected it, what's that, right?
Yeah, I'm ready now. You're the World Champion of the world. Got it.
What are you, a rookie?
Exactly.
I am a rookie. Believe me.
He's an idiot. Please excuse him.
It's all right. Like I said, everybody gets it wrong the first time, but I just want to reiterate it's not redundant because I'm 2 planets worth of great. So as long as we get that said, let's move on.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, wrestling fans are genuinely excited for the War of the Worlds tour, where you are scheduled to defend your title against Matt Taven in Dearborn, and then, if successful, against Jay Lethal and Cody on pay-per-view in New York City on May 12th. How are you preparing for 2 very different matchups, 2 very important matchups, over the span of just a few days?
Well, first of all, I'm very familiar with Matt Taven. The Kingdom and the Addiction have gone round and round in the Ring of Honor ring more than once. And watching him grow from a tag team wrestler to the leader of his own little faction in Ring of Honor, it's impressive. But, I mean, I've kept tabs on the type of wrestler Matt Taven is and the things he's good at and the things he's not good at. And my game, as far as being the ring general and being the master strategist, is to figure out what his weaknesses are. And I figure them out, and I'm going to teach him how to lose with grace in Dearborn, and then I'm moving on to New York City to defend the title against 2 of the top wrestlers in the world, Jay Lethal and Cody Rhodes. And, you know, whether they're the best first-generation wrestler or the best second-generation wrestler in the world, they are going to find out that I am the generation killer and I am the world champion for a reason. And, you know, it's just time for the Almighty to continue to reign in Ring of Honor.
Mike Chiari, next question.
Well, you've spent a large chunk of the past several years as a heel, but you had such a natural face turn leading up to the feel-good story of you winning the ROH World Title of the world. Having been a heel for so long, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in making that transition back to the other side?
Well, I feel like it's difficult sometimes to get people to accept you, and it's easier to be a heel when you're just fighting against people's expectations. I mean, it's easy, I think, to get people to dislike you, even when they respect you. And I think that was always a hurdle that I had to overcome as a heel, was that people respected the fact that I worked hard and that I've been around for such a long time. But really, honestly, like you said, it was sort of natural because people saw what I went through in Ladder War, and that sort of was the impetus for people to sort of respect me at a newer level than they already had. And, you know, I'm going into matches now where they see me as sort of an elder statesman. And the fact that it took me this long to become the Ring of Honor World Champion of the world, I mean, that to them is just, I guess it's just sort of proof that hard work pays off. And if you stick with something, you know, great things can happen to you. And I think that people sort of get behind that idea of that story, and they appreciate seeing success when it comes to someone who's, you know, been on the grind for as long as I have.
Brandon Gavin, next question.
Well, you've been among the most talented wrestlers in the world for more than a decade. Is there anybody that stands out for you that pushed you in the ring physically or perhaps backstage creatively?
Well, there's plenty of guys that have pushed me. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work with guys like, you know, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, and most recently, anytime myself and Frankie Kazarian get in the ring with the Young Bucks, they push us to be the best tag team that we can be. And honestly, you know, Adam Cole, being the first 3-time Ring of Honor champion, it was one of the hardest matches of my career. And, you know, for the first 5-6 minutes of that match, Adam was really showing me up. So, I mean, he's one of the most talented guys I've ever been in the ring with. And, you know, whatever the future holds for Adam, I'm sure it's going to be great. And it's one of the victories that I'm going to be most proud of when I finally, you know, look back at the career when it's over. I'll be able to say that I won my world championship, my first world championship, from one of the best in the world ever.
Well, you mentioned Adam Cole. On March 10th, you defeated Cole to win your first Ring of Honor World Championship. of the world. 15 years, it's very hard for me to do. I'm going to get this. 15 years after you first debuted with the company, what was that experience like for you in that moment, and what kind of reaction have you received from your peers?
It's very surreal when it finally, when the 3 count finally went down and I realized that journey to that goal had finally completed. I felt a sense of relief, a sense of accomplishment. It all sort of washed over me in that little bit of time, and hearing the crowd's reaction and seeing the streamers and having my friend Frankie there sort of to help me along, like all of that. It just it's something that I'll always remember and something that I'll always hold dear in my heart. And as far as like the reaction from my peers, literally probably 20 minutes of every hour for the first 2 days after I won the championship, I spent on Twitter or on my phone responding to tweets and DMs and messages from people that I've worked with over the course of 24 years that were reaching out to congratulate me on my big evening. And, for me, having worked with so many different people over the course of my career, to have them reach out on my big night, that meant the world to me. And I was, happy to know that my experience with all those guys was positive enough where they felt compelled to sort of congratulate me, to reach out to me when I became champion. And that's, it was cool for me. It was a great feeling to know that I have the respect of so many of my peers.
Mike Chiari?
Fans have long thought that obviously you deserve to be world champion of the world, but it seemed like there were always questions about whether the right circumstances were going to come together for it to happen. From your perspective, were there any doubts ever that it was going to happen? And if it wouldn't have happened, would that have left a void for you?
Well, I feel like looking back at the way it all unfolded, I feel like it was the perfect set of circumstances to win it when I did. After 15 years, after spending so much time as a tag team wrestler with Frankie, getting this opportunity when I did, I think a lot of people felt like it was a good time, or that it fit the narrative of my career. And me personally, I felt like if I had won it early on, if I had won it in my first run in Ring of Honor, or if I had won it in 2010 or whenever, it would have made this particular victory a little less significant. And I think that part of the reason that everybody responded to me winning the belt when I did had to do with the fact that I failed so often before. And so that, like, all those failures before, all those opportunities that I didn't get the championship, it made this victory that much more important to me. And, I think if you had asked me a year ago if I retired without ever being world champion, I probably would have told you that I was going to be okay. But having the championship now, I realized that was just me sort of, trying to see the silver lining. You know what I mean? And I'm glad now that I don't have to think about what my career would have been like if I never won the championship. You know what I mean? That victory and that accomplishment is going to be something that I'll always cherish and always be very happy to have got.
BG?
Well, your victory against Adam Cole to win the World Championship of the World was awesome, but your emotional promo leading into the match stood out to me and is arguably the best promo of the year. Can you explain what led up to that promo, how it came about, and how important that was for you entering the match?
Actually, a lot of that promo came from the promo that I cut previous to Ladder War. There was a period before Ladder War happened where I sort of realized that tag team championship that I held with Frankie at that point, that could conceivably have been the last world championship that I had ever held. And, as much as Frankie and I are alike in terms of our mindset and our wrestling, and as close as we are as friends, the big difference between me and Frankie is that I've been wrestling for 6 years longer than him, and I'm going to retire before him. Like, I don't expect him to hang it up at the same time I do. He's got many, many years ahead of him, and I feel like my career is pretty close to being over. I mean, I'm not going to put a time frame on it, but I know that, I'm talking, probably, I'm talking in terms of months, really, probably, when you think about it. And so I went into that promo thinking, like, what am I going to do to keep the things that I have if I realize that that's the last time I'm going to hold it? And so after Ladder War and the opportunities to become world champion came up, then it was a whole new mindset because, like, talking about the tag team championship was something that I had before and a level of success that I'd sort of always had. But talking about never being world champion, something that I'd never held, and the possibility of never holding it, and the sacrifices that I made to try and hold it, the amount of stuff that I sacrificed, and then the idea of never holding that championship, all of that sort of came into play when that promo came around. And so, I mean, and that was a lot of reality. Like, there was a lot of real moments in that promo, things that I think about, not when I'm in front of a camera, not when I've got a microphone in my hand, but when I'm by myself and thinking, I've got a little bit left to do in this career that I've been proud of for 24 plus years. And so, yeah, all of that sort of came out in that promo, and that was as real as it gets.
Well, shifting gears a bit, as someone who has been around Ring of Honor and the wrestling business for a very long time, who are some of the younger stars you have seen recently, whether it's Ring of Honor or other companies, that have the potential in your eyes to be top stars moving into the future?
Well, I'll talk about Ring of Honor. I mean, certainly, you talk about the guys that are coming up, guys like Dalton Castle, guys like Jay White, guys like Flip Gordon, who just recently joined Ring of Honor. You look at a tag team like War Machine, who's only been together for a short period of time, but have already been Ring of Honor tag team champions, and now they're currently IWGP tag team champions. And I see a great future for those guys as far as tag team dominance. And then guys like Marty Scurll and Will Ospreay, who just recently within the past year have joined Ring of Honor and continue to show like innovation and a creative mindset towards pro wrestling that I think Ring of Honor fans are lucky to have them in our roster to sort of grow and become great characters and great contributors to the history of Ring of Honor.
Mike Carey?
ROH has long been known for cultivating rising stars in the wrestling business. As a veteran, how do you strike that balance between helping groom the up-and-comers, but at the same time looking out for yourself and ensuring that you're still relevant and near the top?
Well, for me personally, the idea of staying relevant and staying at the top is just a matter of getting in the ring with the guys that are up and coming, and trying to prove that I'm still being able to wrestle at that top level. But I mean, for Ring of Honor too, you have to understand that for a good percentage of the roster, Ring of Honor is the first opportunity for them to be seen by a national fan base. And so it's very important that Ring of Honor continues to cultivate the mentality that this is a spot, this is a destination for young wrestlers to come and be seen and be discovered. And, when you've got that sort of mentality, that's when you've got guys that yearn to come to Ring of Honor and join the roster and try to put their best foot forward when they walk through the ropes in a Ring of Honor ring. And I think that those young wrestlers that want to be a part of Ring of Honor, they also become better by wrestling veterans like myself and Bully Ray and Jay Lethal and Jay Briscoe and, when the Hardys were here, the teams that got an opportunity to work with them in that short period of time, those guys that have gone on and been champions and have held titles and have, main evented around the world, the young guys get opportunities and they learn from being in the ring with veterans like that. And, that experience is invaluable to them.
BG, final question?
Who would you put on the Ring of Honor Mount Rushmore?
Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, and probably Nigel McGuinness.
No, the final answer was Christopher Daniels. I'm sorry, I have to say number 4 on that Mount Rushmore should have been Christopher Daniels.
He has his own statue, not just a Mount Rushmore.
I know it's subjective, but
There's his own mountain.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to put myself on there. I feel like, as much as I've contributed to Ring of Honor, those guys did as much or more and certainly deserved that sort of recognition. So, I mean, it's nice to think. It's nice if people think that I deserve to be like top 4 like that in that sort of sense of what they've done for the company. But, if I found out that I was number 5 on a list of 4, I wouldn't be disappointed. I mean, you look at the track record of those 4 guys that I talked about and what they contributed to the company in the time when they were champion. I don't think my current reign compares to the stuff that they did yet. And I mean, that's part of my goal too, is to try and build a title reign that, stands up when you lay it side by side with what Joe did or what Punk did or Bryan or Nigel. That's my goal, is to try and sort of be comparable to those guys. And I know it's a long road ahead of me to do that.
Well, a huge thank you to our guest, Christopher Daniels. Catch him stealing the show on Ring of Honor's War of the Worlds tour as it makes stops in Toronto, Dearborn, New York City, and Philadelphia over the next 2 weeks. Tell the fans where they can support you.
You can follow me on Twitter at FACDaniels. And now that I've been exclusive to Ring of Honor in the last couple of years, you can follow my exploits at ROHWrestling.com. If you can't see Ring of Honor on television where you're at, you can always either watch it on the website itself, ROHWrestling.com, or you can get the Fight TV app. The show, Fight TV shows our television show the Monday after it airs in syndication on that weekend. So that's the best place to do it.
Another huge thank you to Christopher Daniels, the world champion of the world, and he's modest, who knew?
Here we go.
But thank you so much for your
guys.
time. Good luck moving forward, sir.
I don't need it, but thanks very much for the offer. Thank you, guys.